49 and 50. This is from the SAT number 9. This is April 2017. And question 49 and 50 are paired questions, which means that the best way to solve these is to start by reading the question for 49 and then using that to pick the answer choices using the answer choices from 50 to help us decide what 49 is. So it's almost doing it backwards. We start with 49, choose an answer for 50, then use that text to answer 49. So let's start. So 49 says, scientists who specialize in lignin were useful to Martone and Estevez because. So this tells us that we need to look for a text that's going to tell us basically why were scientists, specialists in lignin, why were they useful to Martone and Estevez. So let's see if we can choose a text from 50 to help answer that. So line 22 is the first one that's mentioned, and line 22 says here, Martone didn't set out to locate lignin in algae. So all this does is really tell us about the initial research interest of Martone, and it doesn't really say anything about specialists in lignin. Those actually come later, as we'll see, but right here in this moment, all we hear about is Martone, nothing about these specialists in lignin, so we can get rid of A. Then we have B, which is lines 30 through 32, which is down here. The calcified or rigid-bodied seaweed has multiple non-calcified joints that make it flexible yet strong enough to handle that setting. So here we're talking about the seaweed, the algae that's up here, right? So here we're talking about the seaweed, and it's explaining the structure of it, right? It has these calcified rigid-bodied seaweed, and it has these non-calcified joints that make it flexible so it can survive in the setting, etc., etc. But again, really nothing that talk about specialists in lignin for this part here. So for that reason, I think that we can also get rid of B. Then we're going to go to 33 and 37, which start down here. So when collaborator Jose Estevez at the Carnegie Institution for Science examined the joints from Martone with the transmission electron microscope, he saw secondary cell walls, features commonly found in land plants. So this could be pretty good, and we might be talking about a specialist in lignin when we're talking about Jose Estevez right here. So maybe this is what we need to do, right? Maybe we need to look for, maybe this is our guy, this is our specialist, and it will tell us about why they were important. He was important. But actually, Estevez is the second guy that's mentioned in the question, right? So we're looking for specialists in lignin who were useful to Martone and Estevez. So Estevez himself is not going to be the specialist in lignin. He's the collaborator. So for that reason, this is not our answer choice. And it's honestly really as simple as that. As long as we focus on the details in the question, a lot of times it's really easy to eliminate some of the options for these answer choices here. So that's going to leave us with D. Let's make sure that D makes sense. So 42 through 45 starts up here. It says John Ralph and his colleagues at the University of Wisconsin-Madison's Great Lake Bioenergy Research Center detected lignin in this algae here. So my first question is, we've kind of used process of elimination to get this far, but let's make sure that John Ralph is a specialist in lignin. And if we come down here, we read this sentence, which says basically that their finding prompted Martone and Estevez to seek out experts in lignin. And then immediately we're introduced to John Ralph. So we can make the connection that John Ralph and his colleagues, those are the specialists in lignin, and we got there through process of elimination, but it also makes sense given the way the passage works. So now we got to use this sentence to answer the question about why they were useful. So why are these scientists were useful? And if we just read this text here, all it tells us is that they detected lignin in this algae here. That's all it really tells us. So we might think maybe that's the only thing that they're really useful for. So I would kind of start to go through my answer choices and see if maybe one of the answer choices basically they helped them identify lignin in this algae. So let's start with A. The toughness of this algae made it difficult to analyze without the use of specialized chemistry. And that's not really mentioned in any part of the passage or the text that we just looked at, but I might even do a little bit of double checking to make sure, right? Like basically what was it that prompted them to look out specialists in lignin? Was it the fact that the seaweed is too tough to analyze without the use of specialized chemistry? And it really wasn't. The only thing is that they discovered what looked to be lignin, right? They discovered these secondary cell walls within the algae that made them seek out experts. But it doesn't say anywhere that it was too tough or the material or the composition of the seaweed made it really difficult to analyze unless they had some sort of special chemistry. and nothing in this passage here, in this sentence here. And even if we extend the rest of the paragraph, nothing there. So for that reason, we could probably get rid of A. B says that this algae was found to contain features typically found in plants known to contain lignin. And I like this answer choice. Within the specific text that we just looked at that talks about John Ralph, it doesn't really mention this. All it says is that they discovered lignin. But I still like this text because it's very general and it's something that we know that's true, right? We know that they did find features typically found in plants within the seaweed. But I would go back and just double check, make sure that we actually do have good evidence for it. And sure enough, here in lines 45, they found the same telltale components derived from radical coupling reactions. Yep, not going to say it. Used to describe lignins in terrestrial plants. So this is still about John Ralph, who was our specialist in lignin. And basically it's explaining that they did find the same telltale components that you would typically find in land plants. So that is going to match B, which says that in this seaweed, we found features typically found in plants known to contain lignin, or these terrestrial plants. So this is a good answer choice. Let's keep B. C says that the specialists were helpful because prior research suggested that seaweed species contain molecules of a particularly durable chemical compound. Not really anything that's mentioned in the passage or in the text that we have, where basically past research is showing that this particular seaweed species has these molecules and that's why they needed the specialist. We don't see any of that in the passage or in our text, so let's get rid of C. D says that specialists were useful because some unexpected measurement results from tests for lignin required specialist interpretation. This might seem like a good answer choice because basically the structure of this is Martone and Estevez found something and then they needed to call in the specialist, which is what we have right here. Right? Collaborator Jose Estevez and Martone, they examine this, they see these secondary cell walls, and that prompts them to look out experts. So it has sort of the same structure. However, D is saying that we had an unexpected measurement, which is something like some measurement that we didn't understand. But that doesn't as closely match them just seeing these secondary cell walls. This is not necessarily an unexpected measurement. This is just them seeing something that's a little bit interesting. Maybe it's something that they didn't quite expect, but it's still not good enough evidence to support an unexpected measurement. And it's not as good an answer choice as B here. So we can get rid of D, which is going to leave us with answer choice B for our correct answer for question 49.